Harry's wife, utterly deluded. We are repeatedly unlucky. Picture the scene, if you will. Harry's wife is in the Monty Shitshow mansion. Harry is either hiding in the chicken coop, or perhaps he's been sent to clean one of the 27,000 flushing toilets. Harry's wife has fallen to the floor. She's not yet sobbing, although there is one tear left eye go in action. She's holding one of the bought awards. The head has fallen off the award because it was cheap. Already, the gold has started to tarnish because it wasn't actually gold, but a cheap replica. She sits there and she says to herself, well, it's all come tumbling down. And I suppose, really, it was inevitable it would, because I'm a talentless individual who has no sense of humour, whose only real ability is to ensnare men and leech off them. I'd like to think that I am a philanthropist, but I really can't be arsed because I don't like the poor people. I'd like to think that I was a feminist, but in actual fact, I let the men do all the heavy lifting, because again, I'm essentially lazy. I'd like to think I could write books, but coming up with ideas is such hard work, it makes my head hurt, so I have to try and pinch them from other people. I'd like to think I was really good at broadcasting, but as it is, most people can't stand me, and apparently I sound like a telephone sex worker when I talk. It's no wonder people don't like me. I'm no fun. I lose my temper. I bully little girls. So I suppose it's hardly a surprise, really, that Spotify told me to fuck off, because I'm a talentless, grifting no-mark, really, aren't I? Oh well, I suppose I'd better go and put on another ill-fitting outfit and see what the day brings. Whilst you might like to think that that's what Harry's wife is thinking about, those are the thoughts that are going through her head, I can tell you, none of them ever will. That is because her narcissism simply will not let it happen. She is capable of recognizing that things have gone wrong. It may surprise you, but some narcissists don't even have the capacity to do that. No, everything's all right, they'll say. As everything turns to shit around them. They are that oblivious. And some of you may have come across people like that they are so completely deluded. In other instances, they recognize that things have gone wrong, but they are not allowed to attribute it to their shortcomings. Some mid-range narcissists have talent. Some have a modicum of talent. Some are talent-free zones, Harry's wife occupying that position. But notwithstanding that fact, their narcissism imbues in them a sense of self-confidence that many people would say, I wish they could bottle it and pass that on to me. It's astonishing how they make such a little go a very long way. And that's because this level of self-belief comes from the fact that the narcissism compels them to believe that they are superior to everybody else, so that they are thus motivated to pursue the prime aims. If they're not motivated, they won't go and get to them, and that's a huge problem for the narcissist. Harry's wife can see that things haven't been going well for her. She knows about her shit popularity. She knows, of course, the Spotify deal was kiboshed, and she knows that Spotify did it. It wasn't mutual. She knows that Netflix are making noises about we want better content from you. She'll have been told by her advisors that getting new deals is proving difficult. She will be aware of their plummeting financial fortunes. However, rather than her realize, I caused this, her narcissism will tell her, it's not your fault. It's something else or somebody else's fault. And that precise way that the narcissism operates has come to light as reported by the Mail in an article by Tom Pyman and Alison Boshoff. The headline reads, Harry's wife and Harry believe they have been repeatedly unlucky and blame COVID, economic woes, the death of the Queen and the failing of Prince Philip's health for their faltering attempts to launch post-royal careers. I'm surprised they didn't blame it on Joe Biden as well. Why not? He's good for many complaints, perhaps even blaming it on the weather as well. Thus, nothing to do with the fact that she's got zero talent and he's a dimwit, nothing to do with the fact that she's an unlikable individual and he's become increasingly unlikable as a consequence of his tainted behaviour through his association with her. Oh no. What we're left with is her saying, it's COVID, it's the economy, it's the death of the Queen and Prince Philip getting unwell. That's what buggered things up. Once again, this demonstrates the self-absorption of this woman, which infects Harry, the level of delusion by which she functions, and, of course, the lack of accountability for her behaviours. The blame shifting. These are all typical of the narcissist. Accordingly, if you were scratching your head thinking to yourself, hang on a second, what's she up to now? How can she say it's COVID? How can she say it's the economy, etc.? She can, because her narcissism tells her that's what's fucked it up. She doesn't sit there and think, I know it's me that's caused all of these problems, but do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out there and say it was COVID and the Queen dying. She honestly believes that it was COVID and the Queen dying and economic woes that meant that things didn't work. That's the level of delusion by which she functions and operates. It's quite staggering, but that is what occurs. Harry's wife and Harry believe they've been repeatedly unlucky and blame COVID, economic woes, the death of the Queen, and the decline in Prince Philip's health for their faltering attempts to launch post-royal careers. The Duke and Duchess only have one major deal left since Megxit, the $100 million contract signed with streaming giant Netflix. Netflix is also reportedly planning not to renew their deal with the Sussexes when it expires in 2025. However, the couple are said to be convinced that their apparent downfall has nothing to do with them, and instead feel that they have been repeatedly unlucky with other world events. Yes, so unlucky they've had millions in their bank accounts, unlike, of course, individuals who've been truly affected by COVID, whereby they lost their jobs or their businesses tanked, or that they lost loved ones who they couldn't actually attend their funeral or couldn't be with in the last moments of their life. Once again, of course, this demonstrates the selfishness and self-absorption of both Harry's wife and Harry, where our popularity has gone down because of COVID. But they fail to consider the impact that it's had upon actual people rather than these two buffoons. Attempts to launch themselves as global do-gooders, free to earn money once they had relieved themselves of royal duties, were severely impacted by the COVID pandemic, which followed within months of their Megxit announcement in January 2020. Well, interestingly, many people were affected by COVID. Pop stars weren't able to tour. Musicians weren't able to go down the local dog and duck and perform. But you'll see that many other people just got on with it. And they didn't say, oh, yeah, COVID, everything fucked up because of COVID. And yeah, that's why I've not done very well. No, they just relied upon the money that they had and waited it out. But of course, with Harry's wife, failure is a threat to control. And therefore her narcissism leads her to have to say something in terms of why it didn't work, and it can't be her fault, so she has to blame COVID and the other aforementioned items. Their deal with Netflix coincided with a huge and painful correction in the economics of streaming, as was also the case with their agreement with Spotify. Well, if that's the case, why isn't Joe Rogan crying about it either? Oh, that's because he's actually got some talent. Neither company is reported able to splash the kind of money mentioned when those deals were signed any longer. That's irrelevant. They were able to splash the cash at the time they signed up, but the problem is they decided we're not carrying on. Not because we haven't got any money, but because you're shit. Further incidents of so-called bad timings that include the launch of Harry's wife's podcast, publicity for which is said to have been impacted by the death of the Queen in September. Or rather, were it not for the existence of the Queen, Harry's wife, nobody would have heard about you in the first place. You tend to forget that. The couple are also said to have felt that their explosive Oprah interview was overshadowed by the failing health of the Duke of Edinburgh, who died soon afterwards. There you are. If you would like an example of the absence of emotional empathy of Harry's wife, her rampant levels of sense of entitlement in terms of self-absorption, her lack of accountability for her behaviour, it's summed up in that sentence. Not only did she deem that it was appropriate to lie about the royal family whilst the Duke of Edinburgh was on his deathbed, which of course was most upsetting for the Queen, she then, but entirely understandable because she's a narcissist, has the gall thereafter to cry about the fact that he had the audacity to be ill and it thus overshadowed their interview. I can't believe it, Philip. How could you fall ill when I'm here slagging off you and your family? You're so selfish, would be the words that would come from Harry's wife's mouth. A source in Los Angeles said the word is that they think they've been really unlucky. It comes as it was claimed this week that Harry's next big idea is to return to his second home of Africa, but without Harry's wife, for a new solo Netflix documentary about his love of the continent, its people, and its wildlife. You would do very well to fuck off to Africa, Prince Harry, and stay away from your toxic wife, and also to have a good think about what you have been doing, because you are actually capable of doing that, even with your reduced number of brain cells. But so long as you remain with your toxic wife, you are going to be associated with this kind of dumb fuck narcissist behaviour, which is going to continue to reduce your popularity. The fact is, Harry's wife has once again demonstrated with this complaint, by considering that we are repeatedly unlucky, has demonstrated the level of selfishness, absence of emotional empathy. And the fact is, people have lost their jobs over the money that was spent on Harry and Harry's wife. But she doesn't give a fuck, because quite simply, as a narcissist, she's not programmed to do so. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.